Hey YouTube, Do-It-Yourself Junkie 369 here with a quick review on this Commander Commercial Products 5-tier heavy duty shelving unit. This is it right here. Normally I do a video on how to assemble stuff and use it. It's a shelf. There's instructions on the back of the tag. It's fairly easy to do. Just make sure there's a small end. That end goes down. Other than that, it has adjustable feet on the bottom in case the surface you're putting it on is level. There's these little tracks on all four sides that these go into, and you can tie two shelving units together to make a single unit. And you can either stack them side by side or front to back. And you just put these clips in there and that holds them together. Then also has some U-brackets that slip over the legs near the top, and you screw those into a wall. Now it does say to put this over there and screwed into a stud, but here is a 2x4, your normal stud material, and there is the U-bracket. As you can see, you could probably hit the stud with one screw, but not both of them. So if you're going to use this, make sure you pick up some appropriate rated anchors for putting this into the drywall. I would go with maybe something on the order of 50 pounds. All you are doing is stabilizing the shelf, making sure it doesn't start tipping. And if you're using two of them, that would be 100 pounds to prevent it tipping. Now, you can pick this up at Lowe's. I haven't checked Home Depot. It probably has it too. But I had a choice between this, BlueHawk, and Craftsman. The Craftsman was about $4-5 more and could hold 250 pounds more than this. It was, instead of 20 inches deep, it was 24 inches deep. Now this is about 47 inches wide, where the Craftsman's only 40 inches wide. And then both are about 72 inches tall. So the top shelf being right at 6 feet. And both have 5 shelves. I went with this over the Craftsman because the webbing here on the shelf seemed to be a little bit more sturdy and bending. Now it's probably not going to make a difference because weight should be pressed down on it, but I could just see something getting in here and kind of twisting and snapping one of these on the Craftsman because they seem thinner. Other than that, they both look equally well built, and it seemed like it came with the same accessories. The Craftsman shelves had these channels in all four sides as well. Now on the BlueHawk, they're quite a bit cheaper. They are smaller and only hold 150 pounds. Speaking of that, the Craftsman holds 250 and these are rated for 200. There is a note that for every 5 degrees above 95 degrees that your storage area gets, you need to decrease the weight on your shelf by 10%. So if it's rated for 200 and it gets up to 100 degrees, then you need to only put 180 on the shelf because the temperature is going to impact the plastic. And that's one drawback over plastic versus metal. But I have metal shelves in the background that I'm replacing, and it's really frustrating to try to put small items on there. The metal shelving is rounded for the mesh, and stuff like aerosol paint cans like to kind of slip and roll instead of just sitting flat like they should. So this is what we're trying to organize in my garage, and it's a shelf that runs the whole length of the garage. It's about 19 feet, but it's only a foot deep. So this one shelving unit should be able to replace all of the shelving and make it more organized. The other thing that I liked about this shelf more than the Craftsman is because of the 47-inch width, it's able to hold 10 27-gallon totes from the same company. And I have a couple of these holding my Christmas tree, and they're really great. As they're not, I don't think they're airtight, but they do a good job of storing small stuff for long term. I hate putting stuff in totes because if you put something in a tote, it's kind of out of sight and you're never going to use it unless it's something like Christmas decorations that you know is in there and you're only going to open once a year. Other stuff like everything on that shelf, if it went into a tote, there's a good chance that I'm not going to remember it's in there and it's going to get ignored and not used, and I might as well have thrown it out. So mainly I'm using this as an open shelf, but if you have something like Christmas decorations or Easter decorations or Thanksgiving and all that, you could have a separate tote for each one or several totes, and you could fit 10 of them on this shelf and it would take up less room. My stuff is stored up in the attic, so it's not an issue. Anyway, that's all I really have for the review. I will shut off the camera and get some work done and then show you the difference between that jumbled mess of those wire shelves versus what this looks like. It should be better organized than what I have. Okay, I finished putting the shelf in and taking down the shelves that were installed along the wall. So there's no more shelves along the entire garage wall, which was great. It freed up space down there to hang some bicycles. And eventually I'm going to have at least 4 bicycles hanging there, maybe 5 if I pick up a road bike for myself instead of just a mountain bike. And one thing to note about the shelf is everything on those shelves fit on there, plus I used to have a filing cabinet next to the hot water heater. That is now in, the stuff in that filing cabinet now fits in that tote on the right. The tote on the left is some of my kids' toys that I picked up off the garage floor. The barbecue stuff, the buddy heater. Behind the buddy heater is a propane burner for a turkey fryer. These 2 aluminum pots up top. All that stuff was just sitting on the garage floor. So I've actually cleared up quite a bit of space, and I'm thinking about getting, I love this shelf so much that instead of buying a cabinet, I'm thinking about getting another shelf unit, because if I want stuff in an enclosed space, I can just put it in these totes, and it actually takes up a little bit more room than a cabinet, but it seems to have more volume storage wise. And then that second shelf will probably go right there where my Airco welder is. And as you can see, I don't know if it was apparent in the video earlier, but all behind this table used to be full of just junk laying all over the place. And that is pretty much been cleared up. And that second shelf I can use for some of the car parts I have laying down there. Bike fairings when I'm working on the bike, stuff like that. On the top shelf I probably can throw this miter saw and get it off the floor. So I feel like a second shelf will help me clean up the garage a bit more, but I cannot say how much I am happy with that shelf and how much more access I have to stuff in the garage. And then even though that looks like a jumbled mess, which the nails right there kind of are, it is still a lot easier to find stuff down here at my eye level versus a little bit above my head level. And that's why the stuff at head level is like the 2 pots and some chainsaw oil and some cones, and that's about all that's up there, because I don't want to stick up stuff up there and not be able to easily see it or find it. So that pretty much finishes up my review on this shelf unit. I definitely recommend it over the Craftsman, which is kind of a hard blow for me because I like Craftsman, and the shelves are one of the few things they still make in the US. A lot of their electrical equipment's made overseas, I believe now, or at least part of it is. I think their tools, like their screwdrivers, might still be made here, but their shelves definitely said made in the USA. And the part that really sold me on this versus the Craftsman was the webbing seemed to be a little bit stronger, and then the dimensions just made more sense to me, and the ability to use those totes was very useful. And so I might be, like I said, I plan on getting a second unit for more storage and freeing up garage space over here to my left so that I'm able to bring in a wing kit for my airplane for one thing, and then also maybe set up a workout area. Part of that will be, I have a giant mill that I need to get put together, and that will free up some space too. But if I got the second shelf, while I'm working on putting the mill together, all the spare mill parts could go on the shelf and would be off the floor, which they take up a lot of room just laying on the floor, because versus the shelf, where when you put them on the shelf they still take up room, but you're able to stack more vertically because of the shelves. And that's another reason that this seemed to be a better configuration than just having the one metal shelf along the whole wall. The shelf area is about the same, but I could put so much more on this. So hopefully that was informative. I definitely recommend getting. Don't use it somewhere where it's hot. My garage, while it does get fairly warm in here, it really never breaks 100 degrees. So I don't have to worry about that reduction in strength. That's not a key factor with the plastic shelves. So if you're going somewhere in a really hot environment, I recommend going with metal or building some wood shelves versus this. But for the price and having it available right now versus working on it, I think it was a good sale there. If I had built something, it would have cost similar to buy the materials, and then putting my time in would have put it over the price tag that was on this unit. And then usually metal shelves are either a little bit more expensive, or they have bigger, they have really thin wire shelving, and that was a problem with some of my aerosol cans, especially for all the different types of spray paint that I have over there. On the metal shelving, they like to slip between the wire supports that make up the shelf, and so nothing was sitting quite upright, where this does a better job of handling those aerosol containers for spray paint. Hopefully you liked this video and it helps you make a decision on how to organize your garage, and thanks for watching. Please give it a thumbs up and think about subscribing.